Well, thank you for staying with us. We told you that we'll be appraising the latest development on Adamawa governorship supplementary election, as well as other places where the exercise was held. And we have joined by the Executive Director, Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, who's joining us virtually, and also Executive Director, Enough is Enough, Yemi Adamolekun. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good morning, Samson.
All right. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time. I'd like to start with Samson. Samson, what's your general appraisal of the development in Adamawa State at the moment? This is, of course, also with the fact that the governorship candidate of the APC has sought the court to interpret, a lot of developments from our own side, and saying that INEC, should stop forthwith with the continuation of the elections. How would you react to this?
Well, good morning, everyone. I'd say that the development in Adamawa is not only disappointing, but these are ominous signs of democratic backsliding and INEC capture, for which civil society had highlighted in our election manipulation risk index. It is totally unacceptable, highly condemnable, and unacceptable for a resident electoral commissioner to usurp the powers of a returning officer and make an illegal declaration of results. And I hope that the nation rises to not only condemn this act, but to ensure that there's accountability. If that man, is not arrested, is not prosecuted, then this is going to be the norm, because a dangerous precedent has been set for our elections and our democratic process. The second point is also unacceptable that national commissioners will be attacked and assaulted in the manner that we saw in the video. It clearly shows that, first, both our politicians, and the actors that play in this space have absolute disregard for civility, for human rights, and more importantly, do not in any way respect democratic values. And this portends grave danger for not just our electoral process, but for political stability. And we have called for not only the suspension of the resident electoral commissioner, because INEC suspension, it's not enough. It is not commensurate with the act. It is important that the president, in line with section 157 of the Constitution, should initiate removal proceedings to serve as a deterrent against future occurrence. Because if this is not addressed with appropriate sanctions, I tell you, let's just forget, about the integrity of elections in the near future.
All right, let me come to Yemi now. I mean, this space is a space, talking about the Adamawa election, that the conversation has started even before the election commenced on the chances of the candidates of the APC getting into the first election, which was now moved to supplementary, and then we see this. Now, leading from the newspapers, Binani has said, INEC has no power to void my declaration and has gone to court. How do you review that?
The joke, as we were talking about off camera, is that the phrase, this election season is go to court. So things happen and everybody's just saying go to court, go to court. And while, yes, the judiciary has a place, but we really need to be also very mindful that we focus on letting citizens, voters, determine who their representatives are by their votes, not using the courts really to shape all sorts of different types of illegality. I think the law is very clear. The REC is not a returning officer. And so even if we look at it for the sake of even argument, the man shows up at a center, declares someone a winner with no numbers. So, I'll ask Madam Binani, okay, you won, by what? What was the vote count? and your closest rival, what did that person get? So if you really look at it at the very basic level, how does this make any sense? But again, she and the REC are able to do what they have done because of the precedence that has been laid, where we are saying everything should go to court, should go to court. And if you look at it, earlier when you were doing the newspaper review, you talked about the provision that INEC has to review results within 7 days. And that's what a lot of people expected Professor Yakubu to do when results started coming in, and there were clear patterns of it being altered. Premium Times just issued an investigative report saying that if you look at what is uploaded onto IREF, Rivers was won by Peter Obi, but it was declared for Tinubu. Why? Because results were altered. Now, the Electoral Act is also clear. If there are discrepancies, it is what is uploaded onto the IREF that then becomes what you are checking against, which is what Premium Times has done. So what citizens, CSOs, party agents were telling Professor Yakubu during the presidential election was, why are you in a rush? The law gives you time to pause. People are already flagging discrepancies. Why are we in a rush to declare someone? Because by his own actions, without saying it, he is basically saying, go to court. And we've had that in other climes and other conversations. Go to court, I'm going to court, go to court, go to court. So for what the REC has done, not only has he taken the go to court narrative, he's just really, raised the bar on what it is. That I can basically say what I want. I don't need to have, at least Professor Yakubu had numbers. There were numbers. We could debate if they were altered, legal, fake, whatever. But at least there was a number. But the REC in Adamawa with no number has basically just raised the bar on the level of impunity when there are clear laws and guidelines. And what's also very interesting, what I understand was that it was the CP that was sitting next to him, the Commissioner of Police in Adamawa State. He finished his illegal act and basically said, oh yeah, let's go. And that one too got up and followed him. Now, I wonder why we then think this is normal, because we now want the courts to adjudicate. And for Madam Binani going to court, for what? Like, the law is very clear. So is it that they announced you as winner with a number? Is it that the REC is the returning officer? Were there extraneous circumstances under which the REC can say because XYZ happened, the returning officer has been, I don't even know what the word is, has been kidnapped, and because of what might be unrest, I have consulted INEC in Abuja and they've now made me returning officer? I mean, there was no explanation. So yeah, I think that it wasn't out of the ordinary, in a sense that we shouldn't be completely surprised. It basically showed what can be pushed if we continue to allow ourselves to say, go to court, let the courts determine what this is. I don't think there's anything here for the courts to determine. So the lawyer that helped Madam Binani file her case should really be invited to a conversation by the NBA, asking really, what part of this law, you went to law school, what part of this law do you not understand, so we can help you? Number one. And two, if it does make its way in front of a judge, the hearing should take literally like 5 minutes and be thrown out for just a waste, what do they call that thing? A waste of court time, or an abuse of court processes. And that's what I hope. Yeah,
but some women have, and some critics as well, have said that this is weaponized moralization and that it serves no purpose in Nigerian politics. And, looking at the fact that it has to now deal with a woman, I mean, how high did we raise the standards of moralization when it came to the men? But some would argue that what is wrong is also wrong.
What is bad is bad. And that's really the thing. So yes, I like the interesting comments around, oh, a woman has beaten men at their own game. So we accept that it's a game. We accept that it's illegal. But we're rejoicing that a woman is able to play at that level. Right. Okay. Now, maybe what makes it interesting for Binani is that she's won. So one, it's a supplementary election. We don't have the benefit of 28 or however many states we had on the 18th. So there's a spotlight of a sense. Everybody's looking at what she's doing. That's one. Number two, yes, she's female as well. But this has nothing to do with her gender, in my opinion. This is an illegality. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, hermaphrodites, whatever. It's an illegality. So now hiding it under the fact that it's just that she's being vilified. Okay, we're vilifying a woman for participating in an illegal act. So we should feel sorry for the woman. I'm lost on that memo. I'm quite lost.
All right, let's bring in Samson here.
So, I mean, Samson, this conversation is hinged on two sections of the Electoral Act. Now, so you have the first section, 65, that behoves on the returning officer for the particular election to declare the results. There's also a section 149 that now says that an INEC official, the court or tribunal can now determine. This is, of course, also subject to the fact that that was made by an INEC official. What's your reaction to this two sections of the Electoral Act?
So, you see, this is a problem I have with my colleagues who are lawyers. Using aspects of the law to legitimize illegality, criminality is not what we are taught in also at the university. That we are ministers and we have to protect the law at all. And so relying on section 1
All right, I think we lost him there for a minute, but let's come back to Yemi. Yemi, perhaps you want to take the question Perry was trying to put out.
Yeah, the two sections right now seem to take the front burner right now in this conversation amidst the morality and the women agenda scenario. Section 65 and Section 149. How do we react to this?
Section 65 says what? Just to remind people.
So 65, for example, gives the responsibility of announcing election results
to
the returning officer. Now, Section 149 says that it will now behove on the courts to determine whether
any
an
official
can actually do that.
Right. As you said during your newspaper, I mean, I'm looking forward to Samson's comment because he's a lawyer. I'm not.
So I think he's back now.
Okay.
So let's take
as a lawyer.
Yeah, Samson's line of thought on that. So Samson, please go ahead.
No, I was saying earlier before this interruption that the problem I have with my colleagues, it's this attempt to leverage provisions of the law to legitimize illegality and criminality. This is not what we were taught at the universities and the law school. That as ministers in the temple of justice, we must rise at every occasion to defend the law. We must use the law to advance the cause of justice. But a situation where lawyers are relying on provisions of the law to protect and defend the indefensible, it's unacceptable. And I agree with Yemi that both the lawyers who are involved, or every lawyer involved in this act of criminality and aberration of the Constitution, should be held accountable by the NBA, because we've got a committee that deals with issues around deviant behavior of lawyers. So you talk about Section 149. What does Section 149 say? It talks about the validation of any act committed by an official of the Electoral Commission, that only a court can vacate, or nullify that act. But it's important to note that that official of the commission must be performing an official responsibility that they have been conferred, by the provisions of the Electoral Act to perform. Secondly, that particular official should be performing a responsibility already.
I think we lost Samson there, but I think you get his frame of thought, Yemi, and what he's trying to say, looking at what the legal background of this conversation is against what the issues are.
Yeah, he was saying that the official that you're reviewing their actions must be performing their legal duty.
Yes.
So to say that someone, it's like basically saying that a cleaner or a clerk in INEC, who is an INEC official, is an INEC staff, then decides, and I think it was actually somebody said it on the newspaper review, decides that, oh yeah, I think, I don't know, Adara should be president of Nigeria, and announces it, and we say we go to court to determine if that is valid or not. Okay, maybe let me not use Adara, she didn't contest, but somebody that contested, and you just make up something and you give figures. So I think if to even say that and then want to defend that in court is actually quite, I don't know, the English word fails me at the moment, because it just shows the level of disregard or disdain that the person, not only the lawyer, but the complainant, has given our electoral process, that you now take a flimsy thing and say, literally saying that anybody can do anything, and then let's go and argue it in court, knowing very well that if the laws were very clear, the outcome would be clear. But you are indirectly saying that the court can be influenced to then give a judgment that backs an illegality. I am very confident that Madam Binani and her lawyer are clear that this was an illegality. Very clear. Now, so for them to now want the judiciary to determine that means that they are gambling on the fact, no, maybe not gambling actually, they're quite confident that they can influence the outcome of the judiciary. And that in and of itself says a lot. And we need to be very careful. And that's why lawyers, and I hope Samson can come back, the NBA has a responsibility to say that no, this is not what we as a profession stand for. For in the face of clear illegality, we cannot then turn our courts into a circus. When people are saying that, let's go to court, don't worry, we know what to do when we get to court to ensure that this illegality is legitimized.
All right, I think still the issue on the fact that only 10 out of course, the local government's results were already announced, the remaining 10 were not, and this REC came on live TV to announce the winner without the remaining results or even any results at all. And then bringing the issue to accountability and transparency in governance, which is something that you're really particular about. I mean, there was a project that was tagged #OneIsEnough, where one person is enough to make the change in their social space. And one woman is also enough to change the dynamics of inclusion and that conversation for the rest of other women. How dangerous is it, Yemi? How dangerous is this concept? Because again, there is the analogy that was phrased by our reviewers here that, you know, what one man can do better, a woman can do worse. And that is disturbing.
It is disturbing. But I think we go down a slippery slope when we genderize this issue, in my opinion. I think as human beings, there's a sense that women, for whatever reason, have higher moral standards, quote unquote. Either it's because they were mothers, we're nurturers, we're the protector of the home, we're this, all the stereotypes around the role of women feed into this narrative or a sense that women would do better, in a sense. And also, women also play to it in a sense when it's to our advantage. Because when we talk about women in office, we say data does support that women actually perform better. And so part of what is given as reasons that women are more intuitive, women are this, women are that. So it's kind of a delicate balance on the strengths of femininity, because we're fundamentally different. Our framing is different. Obviously, it's a generality of a statement. There will be exceptions. There will be women who act differently. There will be men who act differently. But science does back it, that women and men process information differently and also exercise leadership very differently. So I think it's within that context that when you have situations like this, that the morality play comes in very strongly. And women are expected to behave differently, to hold themselves up to higher standards. And while that might hold water to a degree, I think we save ourselves the drama of that by just looking at the issues in and of themselves. So men do bad things in politics every day. We don't have as many women in the political space.
Absolutely.
So when it's one woman, then again, it's amplified as if it was 100. So yes, so Binani happens to be female, happens to be the APC candidate in this matter, happens to be the one that was declared a winner illegally. She has stepped up to the political game of let's go to court. She's playing by, in a sense, the illegal rules we have defined for this election. For elections in Nigeria, I guess particularly even for this election season. So that's parked to one side. Now, as women, is there then a conversation to say that given the fact that women's participation in elections and politics is quite low, are you helping our narrative?
Yeah.
By giving yourself a face to illegality. And I think there's a place for that. So yes, there is bad, but then if we then push a little further and say we want more women to participate because we are also claiming that women are better leaders, are better politicians, will do better. Does this help that narrative? And I don't think it does. And that's where the delicate balance of, it doesn't matter if she's a woman, what a man can do, a woman can do better. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, we are the ones that are now, our gender is now the one being under scrutiny. When men behave anyhow and behave badly, we don't talk about the fact that they're men. Maybe to the degree that we say,
the issues.
Yes. Maybe to the degree that we say it's a patriarchal society, but when it's that, it's the issue that we focus on. They stole money. They acted illegally. I mean, Senator Abo that's talking about the law, the last time he was in the news was for an illegal act. We didn't talk about the fact that he was a man or a woman. He was acted illegally. He was in a store. There was a camera that showed him beating up a woman. That's the issue that was discussed.
Maybe that's because, I mean, the cause and the controversy for inclusiveness, takes the front burner at this point.
Yeah.
So the related question to this is, you mentioned it, but you left it open. So it was more like a rhetorical question. So I'm going to put your word to it right now. What does this portend for inclusivity, going forward with this sort of development without prejudice to putting this conversation, on a gender ceiling?
I think, to be honest, it will come up quite a bit. Initially, when I first saw the rec, my first reaction was, I hope Binani steps forward and dissociates herself from that. Then I saw that she had given an acceptance speech. I was like, okay, I guess she's not. I think it would continue to come up in conversation and be thrown back in our faces as that you guys put yourself forward as being, in a sense, better, that we would handle the thing, that we're more fair, that we would manage. I think some of the narratives that come when we talk about women in politics, women will manage resources better because we manage resources at home. We're able to make the naira stretch further. And those kinds of analogy will be thrown back in our face and says, is this how you want to be fair when you are standing behind an illegality?
All right, let's go to Samson. I think we'll have him back briefly. So, Samson, please quickly, your parting shots, your in summary, what's the way forward with this, really?
The way forward is, first, INEC needs to conclude this process, and to do so as soon as possible. Yes, we see that an ex parte order has been secured to delay this entire process, but it is important that first, in terms of the foundation, there's an illegal foundation. There was no basis for that action taken by the resident electoral commissioner. There's a returning officer that was appointed by INEC. Let the returning officer conclude, the collation and announcements, and then let the president and the Senate, in line with section 157 of the Constitution, initiate removal proceedings and also get the IG of police and INEC to prosecute this resident electoral commissioner and all those involved in this illegality. For me, this is the pathway to getting out of this wood.
All right, thank you so much, Samson, for those words, and I'm sure that this conversation is ongoing till we see the interpretation, perhaps by the court, and the response to INEC on this matter going forward. But we've been joined by the Executive Director, Yaga Africa, Samson Itodo, and the Executive Director, Enough is Enough, Yemi Adamolekun, also with us here on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.